Hi everyone! Welcome to Shannon's Magical Makings. This is tips, techniques, and tutorials with Shannon Gordon, and I have a few things I wanted to share with everyone today. So let me share to some groups here and we can get started. So I wanted to see what everyone is up to and let me know what you're doing today. Let me know if you have any comments, and I will catch those as we go through. Okay, so let me make sure this is sharing in a couple of groups that I want to share in, and we will get started. I have some great tips today, and I am sharing this in the tag group, tags, embellishments, and ephemera, and I'm also sharing this in the creative journaling group. These are actually going to cover both groups, and there is some common tips and techniques that can be used in either group, so I wanted to share that as well. Perfect. One more second. Please hop on and pop in a comment and let me know where you are coming from. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer any questions anybody has in regard to the material that I'm covering. So please just hop on and let me know if you have any questions. And let's see, we've got another group. We'll share in this other group over here. And we are going to, yes. So this is great. This is awesome. So it's taking me just a minute to get everything dialed in. Perfect. Okay, we are good to go. So again, welcome. I'm Shannon Gordon, and I am the creatrix at Shannon's Magical Makings. And I have an Etsy shop and a couple of Facebook groups that I do admin for. And I promote my business, products, and kits that I create. So I do have some beautiful hand-dyed ribbon in my Etsy shop, and you can see here they're packaged very beautifully. The link is here. It's Shannon's Magical Makings on Etsy.com, and you can also find the link through my Facebook page, Shannon's Magical Makings. So I've been working on doing some art journaling, and I like to incorporate some techniques that I enjoy using. I have embellished with an embossing folder, and I create my own tags, and I'll give you a little tip on how I go about doing that. I did this really pretty journal cover, and the YouTube video is called Creative Covers 101. So if you go to Shannon Gordon on YouTube, you will see tips, techniques, and tutorials playlist. And if you click there, you will see the different how-to tutorials I have posted. So in working in this art journal, I decided that I wanted to have somewhat of a little pocket on the inside. This is a nice hardcover. And I thought, how great would it be for me to have a great little side pocket here that would hold all my goodies. So I had this idea, and it just totally came up without any prep at all. So I have glued two pieces of printed cardstock together, back to back, right? The blank side to blank side. So it's pretty sturdy now. Hi Richa, thank you for joining me today. Please let me know if you have any questions as we're going through. Really appreciate you popping on. So what I did was I used my scoreboard and I folded this in half. And I didn't do it the landscape, I did it portrait. Okay, so the portrait, I folded it in half while I scored it down the middle. And then I realized, whoa, how awesome is this? I'm going to fold it up and it will be a double pocket on the inside, right? So I already went ahead and put some goodies in here so you could see what I've done. So I took the paper, I scored it down the middle, right? And then I scored it again. I measured how tall I wanted it to be within my journal. And then I flipped it up, scored it, flipped it up, and then I cut out, I don't know if you can see, I cut out this little minuscule triangle so that it would fold comfortably inside. I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have it this way, right? So when I open up my journal on the back cover, I will have a little pocket that's going to house some of the items that I want to use within my art journal. And I thought this is great. So I have a little bit of my double-sided tape, the thin 1/8 inch, and I'll put that here and stick that together so that it keeps it snug and they won't flip out this side here. Right, so I want to leave this open. So I'm just going to have the double-sided tape on the inside right here. And so I thought this is great. So I wanted to show you guys how I did that. So I scored down the middle, folded it over, and I used my bone folder. So I creased it, right? Let me do that very quickly. It's such a beautiful day here. So I folded right with a crease. And then I'm going to measure about how tall I wanted it. And it's okay if it's up because then it'll prompt me to pull open that page specifically. And I can always add little embellishments like the little binder clips or some of the boho beads and charms, okay? So I did this, right? And then I'm going to open it back up and I'm going to put a mark of where I want that to be. And then right there, put it on the scoring board. Score that right along there. And then I'm going to fold this up, right? And then I use the Teflon bone folder once again to crease that, right? Burnish that in there. So I'm gonna fold it again and give it that another good burnishing, if you will, to seal that. Now, if I wanted to, I could make this one the opposite and put it on the back cover, right? So I could fold it the opposite way. It folds nicer that way. That's meant to be. So I have one in the peach and one in the blue, which is really a nice contrast. So then, remember I mentioned that I had this one piece here that I had cut out. And you can see this is a long triangle piece that fits in here. So basically that's all I did, is I opened it up and folded it this way. And I put it in my paper trimmer, and basically I just eyeballed how much I wanted to cut off, and it came out perfectly. So I'm gonna pop it over here on the paper trimmer, eyeball it again, and just make it a slight little, very long triangle, if you will. Okay. And so I eyeballed that one, and it's pretty close. Me and paper get along really well. Okay, so I'm gonna just burnish the creases right here so it's really nice and snug here. And then I'll go ahead and push this one under. So please, if you're not a member of the groups, please go to, I'll post the links in the Shan's Magical Making so that the links are available to the groups so that you can ask to join the groups. It's tags, embellishments, and ephemera, and creative journaling. So there we go. There's this here, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about is using old textbook paper. So what I have done is I have inked it with some, I like to use the archival ink because then it seals, it doesn't get wet with the water, it won't bleed through. And then I just pick a cute stamp and just randomly stamp all over the paper. And as you can see, I tear this off when I use this. There's also a great word embellishment or text embellishment building tutorial on the tips, techniques, and tutorials that I show how to do this and create really great words for your projects. So I mentioned that I wanted to talk about some of the things that I do on my own. And one thing that I like to do is I like to find really inexpensive, frugal, efficient ways to create my own unique tags. So what I started out with was a manila file folder, and I cut it in half. And then what I did is I randomly took the ink pad and I put it just randomly on the paper, like this, okay? Kind of all over. And then I chose a number of stamps in some complementary colors and just randomly stamped all over the paper. I used like a floral lace and then the sunbeam and then some old looking scrolly flowers, some hearts, right? Some pretty paisley, and just some honeycomb, Eiffel Tower in different colors, and just randomly stamped through the paper. And then I went through and then I made the marks or die cut them, because if you don't have the die set to cut out the tags, you can certainly mark off the tags with a pencil and hand cut them yourself. And that's exactly what I did with these. When I was first starting out, I didn't have all the tools and all the fun stuff, and made these really, really nice tags. And one thing that I wanted to point out is when I'm doing the tags, I really like to have a finished look. And the finished look that I like to have is when I have inked around the edges with a darker color to give it that vintage look, right? So you can see the difference here. And you can tell when I was first starting out, everything was a little bit off and wonky, but I still use these in my journals because you can definitely add different layers to them. And then the next piece I wanted to speak into was using different die cuts for different things. And you can see that I have used newspapers, magazines, catalogs for creating the bits and pieces in my art journals. So I use, I've put some of them away to use for later. You know, catalogs for the springtime, and you know, the Audubon mailers that come through after I give my donation. So I just thought this was a really cute little idea to share with everyone in the groups today, is that you can just make it so easy. Now, if I didn't want to glue this in, another alternative would be is that I could hole punch it, right? And then I could use the inserts here to tie it with some of the crocheted ribbon, right? So I could make it a little mini signature and string it through the rungs, right? And then it would tie right in. And that would be another way that you could add multiple, depending upon how big your art journal is, multiple inserts, right? You could have one for tags and one for cutouts, or you could have one for die cuts, etc. So I just thought that was a really cute idea that I wanted to share. A lot of times I love creating, and I like to make my own paper. So under here, let's see if I can do this real quick. I decided I wanted to try to make this look really nice for my shop, right? So I sell this hand-dyed ribbon in 5-foot increments. And I thought, gosh, I want to think of something very easy and very quick that I could make it look really luscious when people purchase the products from me in my shop. So what I did was I used some of the paper that I created right? And I wrapped it around some cardstock. And then I hot glued some lace on here. And I added some of the pretty sparkly glitter glue and some more hand-dyed ribbon in a complementary color. And I even have a little pocket here so that they can tuck a little business card or a little tag in here in the front and on the back as well. So, or they could take it apart and use this as well. So I like it that it's multifunctional and that it looks pretty as well. And I like to create my own and design my own paper. So here's a beautiful lace paper that I have created myself digitally. And I also print on vellum, which is a really nice treat. Now the other thing I wanted to share is dyed paper. I dye my own paper, and I've tried coffee and avocado skins and tea. And I found that I really like the way that the tea turns the paper a nice warm tone that works really, really well with my style, my taste. So sometimes I'll use regular copy paper, and sometimes I'll use this really awesome tracing paper that you can buy in like 50 sheet packs at the dollar store for $1.50. Love my dollar store. And so then what I do is I dip it in the paper, right? I dip the paper into a 9x12, 9x14 baking pan with the warm tea. And while it's wet, I'll put it on this one. You can see the dots. I have used one of the perforated pizza pans, so it made some really interesting dots on here. But I love the sound when I'm working with the journals and creating journals and tags with that crinkly paper, right? This one I used one of the wire baking racks, and it's an older one. I believe it was my husband's mother. And I put it in the oven, right? So I put the oven at about 170, and I put the paper in and I time it for a minute at a time because I don't want it to burn, but I want it to dry. And I really like how this turns out because depending upon how you put the paper in, you can have it portrait or landscape. So if you put it like this, you already have lines on your paper, and you can do so much with this paper. You can ink the edges, right? So it gives it that finished look. You can add stamps to it, right? So you can add some more layering to it to put it into your journal. And this one is really neat. I turned it. I did it 1 minute one way and sprinkled some more of the tea water on, and then turned it the other direction. So it gave it a graph paper look, but it's really neat. I really like how this one turned out. And I just love that crinkly sound of the old paper, right? So then what I do is I will scan my dyed paper in, because I can print it on regular paper, copy paper, or cardstock. And I really have fun scanning in the different papers and the designs. I'll use ledger paper, and then I'll scan it in and print it so that I've got the pizza pan design here with a little bit of the tea dye coloring. And then you can print it on both sides, and this becomes another journal card. You can even turn it into a booklet, okay? So you can have little journal books with you to use as the signatures when you insert them into your journals. So one I wanted to show you is I really enjoy creating my own paper. So what I've done is I've printed out different paper, and I have some scraps that I have left over that I will put in randomly, random sized paper, right? And I fold it in half. I have to say, this one was not my own paper. This one was from a pad that I purchased probably at Michael's. But I really enjoy creating and designing the paper. It's one of my favorite pieces that I did. I love this cover. So I folded everything in half, and I lined it up just about the way that I wanted it. and fold it, make sure that's good. And then I get rid of the paper piercers under the foam mat here. Move this out of the way. So it's really easy to make little travel notebook signature inserts that you can even put into a pocket in a journal so that you have the expanded piece. There's that one. So this one would probably go really good for having 2 or 3. Right. So when we've got the 3 holes, we'll take our, I like to use the crochet string. So then some people like to use, put it through a needle, and I should have done it for the sake of doing the video because it's going to slow me down having to poke it through. You get a drink of water too. So today it's actually been one of the warmest spring days that we've had. The sun is out, it's not raining, but we have a ton of water in the yard. It's still pretty wet, but it'll be drying up. Our tulips have come up, our daffodils have bloomed. Yeah, this one's giving me a bit of a problem. So I talked about how I like to dye the paper. I like to design the paper and mix it up with the printing. I like to print it on both sides because I can use it in so many different ways. And when you use the avocado, you can use the avocado peels. They work better than the seeds. It's really neat how it's really neat how they are pink when you use the avocado peels. It gives the paper a pink tint to it, and that's always a neat turnout to have, like it's the antique dusty rose, if you will, to go with the beautiful vintage color of the tea dye paper. Now the coffee dye paper turns out really well too, and it depends on how dark the coffee is. If you like, you can totally, like when you drink coffee, you like it either bold or not so bold, and then you can do the same thing with how much you are using when you dye the paper. And it's handy if you know exactly how you're going to pull that through. Some people like to use the binder clips to keep everything together, but it's a little challenging when you have different sized paper, because the different sized paper doesn't hold the binder clip very well. This is just being a little stinker right now because I should have put it on the needle and I didn't prepare ahead of time. So the other thing that I wanted to share is that after I make my go back to that a second. After I make my tea dye paper, I'll randomly stamp on it. And this one, I did the black and I didn't really like how it turned out, but what I can do is I can also use it as an insert. So what I would do is make it like a little flip, so when it was opened up, you'd have some space to write. And then fold this over. So that would be a nice little insert. So I guess it's a good thing I didn't get through all the string because I wanted to put this in. This one right here. Yeah. So yeah, let me see, I think that's it. I covered the tea dye paper, and then how to create your art journal covers. I have the do-it-yourself video, creative album covers, creative journal covers 101 on my YouTube channel. And then I have the beautiful seam dyed ribbon that I have available in the Etsy shop. I also have kits available for the tags and the embellishments And coming soon is going to be the digital paper that you can buy, the digital file, and then you can download and print your own paper. Also, I have the word embellishment tutorial, and this is how you can take textbook pages, old textbook pages, and then I antique them. I have not put them through the tea dye process. I hand vintage them, ink them up, and then stamp on them. But I just like how the vintage look comes all together. So I'm going to share this in a couple of other groups. If you are interested, I admin 2 other craft groups on Facebook. Please feel free to join them, and I will see you again tomorrow with some more tips, techniques, and tutorials. Everybody have a great day. Bye.